students, friends, and country folk. This is Nick Norton, and this is the next video in my Pro Tools 101 series that I am making while I teach this music production class at Santa Monica College called DM Post 22. And I'm putting it on the internet so that everyone can follow along and learn Pro Tools. Neat! In the previous videos, we've been looking at editing audio, but I've already had a session up that has had a bunch of tracks and audio files and music in it to work on, and we haven't talked about how to get audio into Pro Tools in the first place. If you're already in my class, you've got that session ready to work with, but if you don't, that's what this video is about. I'm going to make some tracks, show a few different ways to import audio, and talk a little bit about session organization and track naming and color coding, and we'll see what else we get into. All right. So you can tell from my screen that I don't have a Pro Tools session open right now. I just have a Finder window, and in this Finder window are some stems that I want to work with. Stems are individual audio files for each track, basically. There's a little more detail than that, but we'll talk about it later. So how do we create a new session? I've got Pro Tools already open. You can see it there. And now we can see we're in Pro Tools because it's up here. And you could go to File and select Create New, but it's easier to just press Command-N. And that pops up this little dashboard window, which if it's the first time you're opening Pro Tools and this box down here is checked, that's just going to open anyway. Right, so here we have some options we want to look at. Obviously the name is the name. I'm going to call this one Whales Are Neat. And yeah, that's good enough. If you want to use templates, that's something we're going to talk about later, but you can check this box and pick a template so you don't have to set everything up manually every single time. Saves a lot of time. And then down here, you can pick what type of file Pro Tools records to. Basically leave this in WAV. The bit depth and sample rate. These are pretty important. You always want to be at 24 or higher unless you have a specific reason to be at 16. 16 is CD, 24 is DVD and better. Streaming's at 24. And the sample rate, in music we often use 44.1. Again, this is going to come up in a later video. In film and TV we use 48. Some classical recordists go higher and some sound effects recordists go higher, but you really never need to. For the purposes of this specific video, I'm going to go at 48, but if you're working at music, go with 44.1. And then this interleaved box, when you record a stereo file, this determines if it's a single file or two files with a .l and a .r at the end of them. If you uncheck it, you should always leave this checked unless you are exporting stems for like a 5.1 mix so that whoever does the DCP doesn't get confused. And IO settings, last used is fine. I like to have this prompt for location checked instead of choosing it the same every time so that I know exactly where my session is going. And then we click create. And then we get a prompt that says, where do you want to put this? So I'm going to put it in my teaching folder for this course, and I'm starting up on an exercise sequence for homework, and that's perfectly good. And what you're going to see when I hit save down here is not a session file pop up here, but a folder pop up here, and we're going to look at what's in that folder. Cool. All right, so we hit save. There's the Whales Are Neat folder. Here's the Whales Are Neat session. Let's go back to the folder real quick. And in it, we have all this stuff. We don't know what that is yet. That's okay. This .ptx file, that's the session. If you double click on that, that gets you here. This audio files folder, that's the most important thing that isn't the session. That's where all of the, anything you record, anything you import is going to go into that folder. So that when you want to, say, go to a different studio or send something to a friend, you don't send just this session here, you send the whole session folder so that it gets all of the audio files, which are currently empty. Okay, so we want somewhere to put those audio files, which are currently in this folder here called stems. So we are going to need to make a few tracks. The easy way to do that, see, I just hit Command S. I do that all the time, saving as you're working on stuff. The way to create some new tracks is you can either go track new, or it tells you this shortcut here, Command Shift N. And that brings up a window asking you what kinds of tracks you want to make. Now, mono means a single channel, kind of like a single speaker, and stereo means two channels, like left-right. For most instruments, most of the time, we're going to be using mono tracks. For instance, if you're singing into a microphone, that's only one stream of audio we're going to be dealing with. We can move that to the left or the right because our output is in stereo, but the track itself is in mono. So let's pretend we were going to record 4 singers. So I can create 4 tracks at a time just by typing a 4 here. And now this is a kind of fun trick. If you either press this plus sign or press Command plus on your number pad, let's say there was a piano with them. Let's give that a stereo track for a stereo mic setup. Cool. Now, if I were to click create right now, it would name all the tracks audio, and that's really annoying. So for singers, I use Vox because I think I'm cool. And for piano, piano is good. You can make other kinds of tracks in this window. We aren't going to talk about them yet, but here are all the different kinds of tracks Pro Tools has. And then a very fun trick, more shortcut action, Command left right changes the track width, the number of channels in a track. You see that bottom one while I'm holding Command and pressing left and right? So that's a time saver, and Command up and down changes the type of track. Fun. All right, so what did I say we were doing? Stereo audio track. Call it piano. I'm going to hit enter. And hey, we got some tracks. Cool. If you have an interface, it will probably have assigned your inputs here and your outputs here. We're not going to worry about actually recording audio in this video, so don't worry about that. We're just importing audio. Cool. So what else do we want to do to get started? Let's look at what we are going to import and then start showing the correct way to import it. Also, I don't need to see that this is in C major. What I'm importing isn't. So I'm going to right click here and turn off key. See how you do that? I don't need to see samples either. Keeping your workspace clean is like really, really, really important. All right, neat. Hit save again, Command tab. Let's see what we got as far as tracks. So we go to our folder of stems that our musician has maybe sent us, or the editor has sent us if we're mixing. And you can see we got all these files named bass, cymbals, distorted organ, drive guitar, fuzz lead guitar, Hellcaster, sick, man. Okay. And we want to, before we import them, just make sure everything we've received is cool to work with. So one way you can do that is by picking a track, and this is a Mac thing. There is a way to do it on PC. I'm sorry, I don't know what it is. And hit spacebar, and that pops up a little preview window, and then you can click around. There is a lot of distortion on that piano. It is a piano, though. Cool. What about, I don't know, snare drum? Just a snare drum. Great. We want to make sure that the file size of these is identical across the board, or in a factor of 2. So these 18 megabyte files are going to be mono, and because stereo is 2 channels, it goes to 36 megabytes. If some number seems weird to you, there's probably something wrong with it, and you can save yourself some time by asking about that early. The other thing we want to check is if you press Command I, it brings up this little info window, And that tells us right there how long it is, how many channels it is, what the sample and bit rate are. So these are all things you want to check before you start importing stuff. Let's assume for the moment that it is all correct and good. So I'm going to do the fast and easy way to import something. Let's just grab a track, bass, it's mono track, click and drag. Cool. Hey, look, I see audio. If I press space, am I going to hear audio? Yeah, that's rad. Ooh, nice little bass track we're going to be working with. There's a huge problem right now, and that is that when you click and drag it in, it doesn't necessarily move the file that we're working with into the audio files folder for the session. See, if I click that, nothing in it. Remember, we have our project folder, the session file itself, and then everything else in the project folder or the session folder that goes with it. So if this is empty, and I send this to someone, it's going to load wrong and send them a bunch of problems and crap like that. So there is a better way to import audio that makes sure that everything gets in correctly. I'm just going to press delete on that because we don't need it anymore. I'm going to get rid of this track too. This is worth knowing. You can't just like press delete and expect the track to disappear. See, nothing's happening. You got to right click on it and go down to delete. And the reason they make that kind of hard is because you can't undo that. You have to go back to a previously saved session to get a track back once you've deleted it. So something to be aware of in Pro Tools. Anyway, as I mentioned, there's an easier way to drag in files and make sure everything works. If we go up here to our settings, and I'm on the processing tab, display operations, editing, mixing, metering, processing. And right there, automatically copy files on import. Check that, your life's going to be easier, because then you don't really have to worry about it ever again. I usually convert copied files to session format. Yeah, I leave that checked. I don't see any reason not to check that unless you're doing some like weird mastering or time stretching, higher bitrate file or higher sample rate files. So yeah, just leave those. I wouldn't leave that. Anyway, so now check this out. If I come over here and let's drag in a bass track. Took a second longer, but now if we come down to our project and look at the audio files, there it is. Hey, it imported it. That's exactly what it was supposed to do. And now if I were to send this entire folder by zipping it to somebody, when they open this, it'll look a lot like this and it'll play back correctly. Cool. All right, there are a couple other things we want to look at here to make sure we are able to do everything that we want to do with our song. Yeah, sorry, I'm not good at the filler here. I just wrote down the bullet points. Let's delete that again. Let's enter to go back to the beginning. The fancier way to import audio files that is a little more foolproof is to go File, Import, Audio, or Command-Shift-I. So I'm going to press Command-Shift-I. It brings up this window, and we can select all of the stems in one go. And now this is important. If you click Add, it does not copy them to that folder. If you click Copy, it does. So we're going to copy all of those. And then if they were in a different sample rate, like if they were at 44.1 but your session's at 48K, you can check this box and say this is the source, this is what the files are at, this is what I want them to be at. Always use the slowest quality because it means the slowest processing because it means the highest quality. We're going to uncheck that because we don't need it for this. And then we click open, and then it asks where you want to put them, which is in fact the audio files folder within Wales or Neat. And we click open, and it takes a second to do its thing. And boom, there is our entire collection of audio files for the song that we are working on. I have to unlock a door. Sorry, I'm recording this in my living room. Right, so we have all of our audio files here, and we can see that they're named in a way that is, it has the name of the instrument in here, but it's a little annoying to look at this DM Post 22 exercise thing, and some have a 0-1 at the end, and there's some tempo data. We're going to talk about that too. So I'm just going to delete these tracks we made earlier. You can click on the bottom one here, shift-click on the top one, right-click, delete. I'm going to show you something real quick. If you do that on a track that has audio on it, it gives you a warning. So that's nice. I clicked cancel right there. All right, so all of these tracks are unnamed. See how they say some weird abbreviation that includes a bunch of numbers and crap like that? This is what it thinks it's saying. We want to name our tracks appropriately so we know what we're looking at, and also so that when we export things later, we don't have to do a bunch of renaming. This is actually super important because when you start recording, the files that get recorded are automatically named after the track. All right, so how do we do that? There are a couple of ways. One, as you just saw, you can double click here, select a bit. I'm going to select that and press delete. I'm going to select this and press delete. And I'm going to press enter. Hey, look, now it's called bass. Neat. Let's say there's something such as this DM Post 22 exercise text that is in all of the tracks, and we don't want to do that manually. We can select them all and go to batch rename. And batch means do a big batch of stuff at once. And then we have these find and replace options and add and delete and all that stuff. So I'm going to find DM Post 22 exercise space dash space. And then I'm going to replace it with absolutely nothing. And let's see if this works. Boom! All tracks now appropriately named. Now, we have the tempo information here. You could actually do that. Sorry. You could actually do that for clips as well. You can, there's a batch rename somewhere. What is it? Command Shift or Control Shift R? Holy crap, I got it right the first time. Awesome. Okay, so Control Shift R is batch rename for clips, and I believe Control Shift T. Nope. All right, let's forget about that. there is a shortcut to batch rename tracks too. The hell this turning? Okay, distorted organ. We got these 01s. I'm gonna get rid of them in the future somehow. But let's worry now about the tempo data. We can see from the file names that this is a song that was recorded at 75.5 beats per minute. And we can see if we look up here at our tempo ruler that we are at 120 beats per minute. I'm going to make a click track real quick to show you how to do that, and so you can really hear how things are off. So if I go to track, create click track, it just throws one in there. Super easy, right? And then that sounds awful because the click has nothing to do with the music behind it. So we need to make the tempo of the song match the tempo of the click track, so that if we want to record more parts or edit on the grid or use any time-based effects like a delay or a tremolo, it's not out of time with the rest of the music. So easy answer to this: how do we adjust the tempo to 75.5 BPM? I sometimes just double click right there. And on the little node, that's what this red dot is called, and say 75.5, enter. See, the whole grid adjusted itself, and now that doesn't sound too good, actually. Okay, we're going to go into emergency mode now because I don't want to do a second take on this video. Let's listen to the beginning of the song. Maybe it doesn't start on a downbeat. Mute the click track. That's beat one right there. Right? There's a little fill going in. This is actually pretty useful for y'all to learn. So what I would do There are quite a few ways to fix this, but we're going to get into something a little advanced for a second here. Is find, there are a couple ways to do this. Where's the downbeat? That's the kick. So I am going to turn on something called Tab 2 Transient. That is this little guy right here. Is it Command Option Tab? Oh, it is. Sweet. That turns it on and off. So you're blinking. And remember in a previous video I said if you press Tab, it jumps to the end of the file. Click Option Tab to jump back. Well, if Tab the Transient is on, it jumps to the next big ol' spike in a sound wave. So I'm going to press Tab and see it only went to right there. Press Tab again, and it goes to right there. Things are about to get a little complicated, or not complicated, just I'll try to go slow so you can follow along. We want to move this downbeat, beat 1, bar 1 of the first measure of the song to the beginning of a measure. Since there is a little intro fill thinger, we're going to put it at the beginning of measure 2. Some people might put this at the beginning of like measure 5, so if you have 4 bars leading in, we're just going to do measure 2 for now. So what I'm going to do is press Command comma, and that puts a sync point right there. See, it put a little line with an arrow at the bottom. Neat, right? Okay, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to type 2. And that moved our playhead over to this downbeat. And then I'm going to hold Control and Shift and click on it. And it jumps it over to the right. Now, that was only one track. How do I move the others? Well, if you just, instead of holding Control and Shift, that moves a sync point. If you just hold Control and click, it moves the front of the file to line up with wherever the playhead is. So I'm going to put the playhead at the beginning of this file, because they're all the same length, and then hit Control, click, or hold Control, and just click on a bunch of the other tracks. And now we're going to cross our fingers really hard, because I would like to not make an idiot of myself while I'm recording an instructional video, and unmute the click, and sweet. Yeah, that's why they pay me the big bucks to teach this class. All right, cool. So now we've put our stems into the correct tempo, into the correct position so that we can start working with them. I'm just real quickly going to adjust my click plugin. This is worth doing. I think the classic click sounds awful, so let's just change this to what's cool. What's cool? Oh yeah, Marimba 1. And maybe this guy, make it Marimba 2. I actually have a preset for this. There it is, Marimbas. And now, and that might have seemed dumb to you, but actually if you've got musicians and headphones, you want to not make them uncomfortable. So little stuff like that can go a long way in making people want to continue working with you. All right, we've shown how to batch rename tracks. Oh, actually, let's get rid of the tempo thing here. Go down here, go to batch rename, and already dealt with that. Let's just trim from the end. How many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 characters. I hit enter, nothing happened. Okay, I'll click OK. Boom! Fixed. And now we've got this underscore 01 that has something I screwed up while I was exporting. Let's just get rid of that to batch rename. I got to remember the shortcut for that. And we are going to make that 0. Actually, let's just uncheck trim and replace underscore 01 with nothing. Cool. Hey, look at all that. I don't know what a Vox guitar is. Let's listen. Oh, it's a Vox guitar amp. That sounds like an AC30. That makes a lot of sense. I thought that might be vocals. Cool, so let's just make this a little easier to look at right quick. I think it's really, really important actually to organize your tracks, and right now these are in alphabetical order, which is not super helpful. So a lot of people put their drums at the top or at the bottom, so I'm gonna do that. Uh, it's pretty normal to do kick and then snare and then other stuff, and then cymbals. So let's do that. And then let's make all these drums one color. Do we have any other drums? I don't want to miss anything here. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna double click, not right click, on this little blue spot to the left here. And that brings up a color palette, and see it says tracks. Let's make them purple. Nice, right? And you can also do this to like the clips in the tracks, the clips elsewhere, groups. You'll see if you click somewhere else, it changes. You could color an individual clip somehow if you want to. I'm going to undo that to show you something else in a minute. But now we've got bass. Bass is often after drums. Personally, I often put drums at the bottom with bass above it so that it's a little like low sounds are low. But whatever, we'll do it backwards for this one. Bass, I like my basses to be yellow, or sometimes orangey. Then guitars, and we can, again, adjust the order by clicking in the white and dragging. And let's make guitar, I always like making guitars like green, because it's my favorite color, and I play guitar, so I get to keep my favorite color for myself. Then we have some keyboard instruments. So, I don't know, piano above, organ, seems like they're switching off. Mellotron's like a lead kind of thing. Oh, here's another guitar I missed. Rockin' guitar. Rock. Let's make that brighter green because it's rockin'. There's no official way to do this. That's important, actually, because I spent a long time wondering like what's the right way to use Pro Tools or what's the right way to produce music, and the right way is the way that makes it easiest for you to work and that makes things sound good. Every producer has a different way of doing stuff. I'm showing you mine and lots of options, and then you can figure out yours. So okay, let's put the organs next to each other. You can figure out what I'm doing here. Let's make the organs I don't know, different purple, blue, orange for organ, and then we could change the color of bass. Pianos are kind of brown, I don't know. And mellotron and synth are both going to be kind of lead lines, I imagine. So yeah, let's make those like a kind of hot color so we know they're lead. Neat. Now you can see only the tracks changed color on the left here. I'm going to unsolo that. We can make the regions or the clips here change color by adjusting our preferences. So if we go to Pro Tools, Settings, and go to, I sure hope this is under Display. Yeah, I personally like my default clip color coding to be track color. If you're doing a bunch of tracks of the same thing, like maybe you have 12 dialogue tracks, then maybe make it into something else so you can see on the left this is all the same kind of sound, but each of these is individual to pay attention to. But for the most part, check this. And boom, now we have a good looking session to start our work. Oh, wrong button. That'll happen. And it's on the grid. And I didn't think I was going to have to do the synchronizing thing in this video, but I'm really glad it happened because now you know how. Is that everything? Yeah, color coding is the last thing on my notes. There is going to be a future video soon on how to export stems. That'll probably be the next video so that you can send all these files to somebody. And students, if you are in my class, I will be sending you stems in the next couple days to do this same kind of thing. So thank you for watching. I hope that was helpful. Okay, bye.